Hey everybody. Hey, how's everybody? I just want to get started and I felt like making a video of me just, telling you what goes on in my life and the things that I've gone through in the past, especially 7 months. And I just want to let everybody know that, you know, life has its opportunities and it has its struggles, and the only way to get by is to be positive and be strong and and inspire yourself, because once you inspire yourself, you inspire so many other people. And with myself is I went through a lot over the summer especially, and throughout this last 6 months with getting a DUI and totaling my car, and having to spend a night in jail, and just it just wasn't who I am, and it wasn't who I wanted to represent, and have people look at me as. And I believe in a way it was finally a learning experience. I believe I needed to wake up. It was a wake up call. Like, most people buckle under pressure and they feel as though, wow, I just did this. What am I going to do? Like, I have no, drive anymore, no, nothing. And honestly, I had that in me for that split second. Once I got out of jail, I was like, what's going to happen to me? What am I going to do? I have no job. I hadn't started school yet. I felt lost and I was hurt, and I just didn't know how to handle myself. And the first resort to me was give up on my life, just go away, and just maybe just never talk to anybody, keep myself private, and just honestly, I thought that was the way out, and it wasn't. It was not the way I wanted to live my life, or is to be always hidden. And I learned from experience of having to come out of the closet and realize, like, I always had to hide who I was and what I was afraid of, and the big thing with me, I was always afraid of speaking up or doing the things that I believe are important. And that was one thing that bothered me. I felt I couldn't do it. And with me, I just want to keep chasing my goals. And I woke up one morning after 2 weeks of me sitting and sulking and crying and just being miserable and not talking to anybody, because I blame myself, and I should have, but I shouldn't have blamed myself to the point where I can't, wasn't motivated to still live my dreams and go out there and do good. I sat there and I was hurt. And one day I woke up and I realized, what? This is not me. This isn't who Gary is. And I realized it gets better. No matter what the things you get through, go through in life, it gets better. And I promised myself, I knew if I stay strong and I go out there and I look for a job, and I say, okay, I'm going to start school. It might not have been at campus the first semester, but it was something, and I was getting started with college. I had done so well the year before and graduated high school a year early. I was ready, what I'm saying? And I went through all this, these struggles and obstacles that caused me to slow down, and I literally wanted it to completely stop, and it's never been who I am, And finally, after realizing the struggle for the last 6 months and having to get myself a car again, and my license back, and spend so much money on an attorney, and the embarrassment, the humiliation of knowing that I was in jail. I got a DUI. I crashed and totaled a car. It was definitely hard for me, and I feel like if I could tell anybody and anything, is don't ever give up. And if someone in your life passes away, or you do something, you fail at something, don't ever stop chasing your dreams, because your dreams are there to reach. Make your dreams a reality. Nothing's easy, but everything's possible. And I learned, that is the way to look at life, and I'm going to keep chasing my life. I look at it as like, I have it. I'm 18 years old, and I have the chance to do whatever I want in my life. And I want to go chase my dreams, and I want to go do what I have to do. You have to be strong, you have to be positive, because once you are, you can spread that, and you can motivate others that are, maybe hurting because of bullying, or hurting because they just, don't feel like they're good enough anymore, or they just feel like they give up because something in their life it's been really tragic. You have to understand that, staying positive and presenting yourself, strong, and knowing that, you can get through it is the best part. Nothing's easy. but you know you can do it. And if you just, convince yourself that it's the time to, get over what happened. The past is the past. It's time to move forward. It's time to do better for yourself. It's time to, live your dream. It gets better. That's all I have to say. And I love you all. Stay inspired. I'm here for anybody. Have a great night.